Hey everyone, welcome back to the Forgotten Podcast. My name is Maya Thompson.
And my name is Maya McCord.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about one of the most infamous prison breaks in history, and that is the Alcatraz escape. You've heard about that, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And it's, a lot of people know about it from how many notorious people that went to Alcatraz,
Exactly.
Al Capone and
Machine
Gun Kelly.
Not the rapper though, not the rapper, the gangster. But yes, like people who go to Alcatraz, this was a maximum security prison. If you did not know, Alcatraz was a maximum security prison located on an island in the middle of San Francisco. And it was actually nicknamed the Rock because it looked like a rock in the middle of the ocean. And so this is supposed to be a very secure prison. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be where, some of the most craziest inmates supposed to go. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be inescapable because people at this prison had already had previous escape attempts from other ones, right? Yep. And so this was the prison that was supposed to be one that was inescapable, hard to get out of because they're in the middle of water. Like, they're gonna have to swim, find a way. There's Coast Guards everywhere. Like, the security
the waters were not calm at all.
Not calm, had many currents, but in reality, 3 men were able to pull it off back in 1962. 3 men were able to escape from Alcatraz, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today, the Alcatraz escape of John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, and Frank Morris.
Mm-hmm. And even though there was a 4th member that was not able to push through the vent and be able to go with them throughout the time. And unfortunately, he was also the same one who brought the plan to the table back in 1960. Mm-hmm. But,
And even the way that they had came up with this plan, I have watched multiple things about the Alcatraz escape. Even before we're going to do this episode, I had heard about it before, seen things about it before, and I didn't really give into much thought about the theories, or I didn't really go deep into the actual plan that took place. But they had been planning this months before. Even you said 1960, Alan West brought the plan up to, what was it, Frank Morris? Mm-hmm. Frank Morris, because all of them basically had known each other from other prison stints before.
Exactly.
2 of them were brothers. Mm-hmm. And they were smart people. They were smart men. And so even December 1961 is when they really started honing in and going in for their plan.
Exactly. And not to mention, this is back in 1960.
Right.
So considering that these inmates were able to be able to get room, get their prison cells right next to who they wanted.
Exactly.
And all 4 of them, all 4 of them got, I want this one, all right next to each other, so they can put the plan into action.
And thinking about in today's day and age, we're in 2023 right now, and whenever we think about cases that happened a long time ago, you always have to put in the factor of technology was less back then. Mm-hmm. They were not as knowledgeable as we are now. Let's even consider what we did on our first episode with the Malaysian airline flight. That was after the 9/11 flight. And, before the 9/11 flight, security was not that tight in airports. Yep. It was not tight at all. So, thinking back, this was the 60s, and prisons were run very much differently back then. Exactly. I'm pretty sure nowadays, if there was a maximum security prison, you wouldn't be able to plan for months and be building stuff. Yeah. In the prison, all that other stuff without people seeing it on camera.
Exactly. Not to mention that when you put in back then, when you put in the name of inescapable, people are going to be okay, yeah, it's inescapable. Right. Same thing with the Titanic.
Exactly.
It was unsinkable. Mm-hmm. Come on. But yeah, back then, people had the mindset of, if it's deemed this, it's most likely this. And most people would think that too, considering the circumstances of where it was, but there's always a way.
There is always a way. And since most of them had worked in the construction unit at the at the prison. Like they were very knowledgeable about how the prison was ran, and they found that there was like an old utility room like behind their cells that was unoccupied. Nobody was using. So they started planning there. They started stealing. They stole 50 raincoats. That was something that was found. They stole 50 raincoats to build the raft. Like one thing about prisoners is that they're very, very good with building things out of nothing.
Yes.
Like, you don't understand how many things I've heard about in prisons, people making cakes, brownies, like all this food and like all these different things. Like they're just very, like when they're in that state of mind, like because they're in prison, they're locked up.
Yep.
You know, they really have to use their survival instincts.
Yep, survival tactics.
Exactly.
Pushing on adrenaline, like
exactly.
Like especially when trying to escape, like they were purely on adrenaline.
Right.
And you know, I feel like that could also be a reason of why, like, if that could have been a reason for why they may have survived to a certain degree, like, because adrenaline can push you a long way.
A long way.
So.
And like even like okay, so they actually escaped on June 11th, 1962. They have found like months before that the ventilator in their rooms like was detachable, and then the wall behind it was easily like be able to be torn down. So that's what they were really like looking for, to build a tunnel. And so on June 11th, they made plaster heads. You want to talk about the plaster heads? They made plaster heads.
They made plaster heads. They like got concrete, like some soap, and like you know, some type of flesh type of paint, and you know, all of that was made to so it can seem like they were sleeping in their beds, when in general they really weren't. They were already gone. Right. And you know, the prison, like the next morning, the prison, like the only reason they even found out they were gone was because they saw them sleeping in their beds. And you know, one of the prison guards knocked the head off and it just fell. So at that point, the whole prison went into lockdown trying to find them. But at that point, they were already gone.
And to think like June 11th, 1962 was the last known sighting of these three men.
Yep.
Ever, theoretically, right? From everyone else's point of vantage. That was the last known sighting. We're in 2023 right now. 1962, that was the last known sighting of those three men, because Alan West, he was, as you said, one of the plan makers for this, but he actually didn't even make it.
No, he didn't.
Like June 11th, he was supposed to meet with them, but when he tried to go through his ventilator, it wouldn't remove. So he was stuck staying in the prison while the rest of them escaped.
Now, he did help the FBI a lot with in giving evidence and how the plan was supposed to go into action and everything. So he did give impact on that.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of the people, when they were leaving and stuff, you know, when they're gone and when they already left, he had you know, stayed back and was already, you know, put into different, he was put into different prisons right after Alcatraz left and stuff. So, you know.
Exactly. And like even like their whole plan was like, okay, you know, we're going to escape at night, you know, go up to the prison roof, you know, go down, get our raft so that they can go to Angel Island, and that's so that they can, you know, steal a car, get some clothes once they got on the mainland. But now let's talk about, did they survive or not?
Yep, and that is the big question.
That's the big question.
I'm still stuck in the middle about.
Me too. It's hard.
It's very hard because there's a lot of evidence that points to either one.
It is a lot of evidence.
And considering that, like, people are able to swim the current and be fine, though. Like, yeah, it'll be hard, but they would be fine. Now, the boat itself being made out of the raincoats, that was going to, you know, and they only had one paddle and only one person was going to be able to paddle. considering how scientists conducted their
right, exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of weird considering that, like, all their other stuff, like, especially, like, all their family stuff and all the stuff that was left behind that was able to go, and you know bodies would come up and you would see them, but they never showed up.
Exactly. Like, that's why this is one of the craziest cases ever, because it's so divided. Like, there's so much evidence pointing to, okay, they could have survived, of, like, you know, swimming the current, and, you know, their bodies were never found. But then there's also so much evidence too that they couldn't have done that. They were prisoners. They had a faulty raft. 3 of them, they would have had to swim some of the way back. And also, when they got to the mainland, there was no reports of any theft ever around the time that they were supposed to get to the mainland. There were no reports of any theft around that area at all. So they could have died in there, or they could have survived. And honestly, some people think a lot of their family helped them, you know, stay alive and stuff like that. But
yeah, that's what I heard about too. I heard about, like, there's been many pictures shown of, like, of, like, of the brothers, and haven't seen any of Frank Morris or anything, but
of the brothers.
Like, the brothers, and I've heard, like, at their mom's funeral or something, they had, like, some heavy makeup with those 2 mystery women, but yeah.
This is definitely a very, very crazy topic. We can go back and forth all day, but that will be all for today for the Forgotten Podcast. My name is Maya Thompson.
And my name is Maya McCord.
And have a good night.